What's the craziest spoiled rich kid moment you've seen? Girl at work told me she hated her dad. I asked why. She said he keeps asking for money since she used his credit card for a Euro trip and left him an 80 grand bill from last year. First day as a librarian in a private school. Help a 7-year-old with the printer. He offers to tip me. My friend is a commercial pilot and works for a large company that has a flight department consisting of several jets and turboprop airplanes. The owner's kids and a group of their friends were granted permission to take one of the jets from the central part of the US to the Bahamas. Upon arriving in the Bahamas, they were meeting other friends and getting on a very, very large yacht for a week. They realized the yacht was equipped with fine dining food, not the type of food they liked, junk food. They ordered the pilots to fly back through US Customs and to their hometown in the Midwest. Once there, they had to pick up multiple sides of barbecue ribs, burgers, hot dogs, soda, beer, and piles of other junk food and fly back to the Bahamas and do so within a time frame that still allowed them to leave with the yacht on time. It costs roughly $5,000 an hour to operate the jet they were using, and it never even struck the owners as something extreme. Humble rich kid, I was a club at my college town and my roommate's new friend who drove a Raptor was at the bar. I started shooting shit and we were getting along, so I offered to buy a Y-bomb, vodka Red Bull shot. Being as wealthy as he is, he said, "You don't have to do that, man, save your money. Round will be on me." I explained to him it didn't bother, I was having a good time, and insisted I buy the shot. Immediately after that, he pulls out a black Amex and purchases the nicest VIP booth in the club, around $3,000. Then ask what drink packages they have, and ask if he could buy 2 bottles on top of Mac's package. Looks at me and goes, tit for tat. Safe to say I don't recall much after that. I went to college with a guy who totaled 5 Mustangs in a year. I don't think he was sober enough to remember any of them. My personal favorite was in college. Kid down the hall from me bought a brand new Fender Stratocaster and played with it for a day and got bored and sold it to me case and all for $20. I still have it and play it 15 years later. It's a great guitar. When I was in college, a friend that was heavy in the frat life told me about a freshman that got kicked out for having a servant flown to town to do the hazing chores he was supposed to do. One time, a college dorm mate next door was stressing his dad hadn't yet given him money for the month, and $1,000 wasn't going to last him for the week. Meanwhile, I'm having to donate plasma to afford my next meal. Life just be like that. There was this rich kid in our class who was literally disgusted by us buying used stuff, like computer parts, on eBay. Once during conversation, I said I bought on eBay memory module for my PC and said to me that I should have a little dignity, and if I buy used stuff, I should keep it to myself. I know a garbage man that works in rich neighborhoods and takes out trash around move-out time for the uber-rich kid university. Every year, he finds 200 to 300 game consoles, the newest ones, and sometimes desktop PCs. The kids don't want to take them home, they just throw them all out. He makes a good $40,000 a year on eBay. He just cleans stuff up and sells it. Nice supplementary income. A 14-year-old in full volume, cursing meltdown, where the fuck is he? Because the pilot of the private helicopter that had brought him there had gone off to get a cup of coffee. The kid was done skiing for the day and found it totally unacceptable that he had to wait 10 minutes before he got flown home. I was that poor kid who ended up getting a scholarship to a ridiculous private school. The one thing that stood out massively for me was probably how much people cared about what everyone else's parents did. Like your parents' achievements counted for yourself. My daddy just brought a new plane. Yes, a literal statement. So what does your dad do? When I replied nothing, they laughed and thought I was being cool about it. There's a lot of rich kids in my particular business program in university. I met this one girl a few months ago at a social. We were chatting a bit about our program, and she proudly told me about how she threatens to sue the school whenever things don't go her way. She also said something to the effect of, they have to take the threat seriously because they know I actually have the means to follow through, haha. A girl in my school was surprised by her parents in the school's parking lot with a new BMW. A freaking BMW. Everyone who is out is basically watching this go down and she starts crying. At first we are all thinking, it's because she's so happy, but then she runs back into the school. Apparently, they were supposed to show up earlier. I'm assuming when there would be more students to witness the surprise. I felt bad for the dad because he looked totally embarrassed and sad about it. You know, in his head, he's like, I created this monster. My college roommate's mom gave him fucking $1,400 for the weekend, just randomly. He blew through the whole thing by Saturday, asked his mom for more money, and was screaming at her because she promised $1,400 for the weekend, and he spent most of what she gave him on Friday, which isn't a part of the weekend. Ex-girlfriend's friend said to me, "Can you believe there are people who have never been on a private jet?" Yeah, I'm one of them. A Saudi guy in the UK got in a crash, with light damage to one side of brand new Mercedes. He called for one of his assistants to come get him, even though the car was fully functional. My friend rolled up on call with his tow truck and asked the guy where he wanted the Mercedes towed. The guy gave him the keys and said, "Keep it, I don't want it." My girlfriend's family is wealthy. She's working her way to it, but she was waiting to get a chance for a promotion, and the words, "I cannot believe anyone would make somebody work for almost a year to get a promotion," came out of her mouth, and I laughed. A long time ago, I was dating a rich girl. Not insane rich, but rich enough. Well, I'm from Norway, and we have a recycling system for plastic bottles. You get like 10 cents per bottle. Her family had a literal mountain of empty bottles and crates in their warehouse. They had a warehouse. I asked her dad, "What are you going to do with these?" For which he replied something like, "Oh, those are from our employees' staff parties from a couple years back. I just haven't had the time to get rid of them." Logically, I told him that I'd recycle them for a percentage. He said, "Keep it all, guy." So I did. I had to do multiple trips to several different stores, but it ended up being like $1,300, which was insane money for me at the time. I bought a guitar for the money. I realize now it's not a crazy story, but for me it was insane to earn that much money for 4 to 5 hours of work because her family couldn't be arsed to do it. Kids trying to straight up bribe bouncers and even police officers. This is less surprising when you realize they were international students from rich families where bribes are common. Thankfully, they'd learn really quick to not do that. I had 2 friends in college who were from UAE. They were brothers, and their parents were sending them to school in the US. They were actually pretty cool and down to earth, if not a good bit weird. They knew I didn't have a ton of money and couldn't afford to do the cool stuff they did, so they covered me all the time. Crazy stuff, like renting a private plane to go to a concert, black cars with drivers, expensive dinners in exclusive clubs. On the weird side, they slaughtered a goat in the bathtub to make a traditional Arabian dinner. Sitting in a group discussion in college and having one kid whine that his parents were so disadvantaged that they only brought home $500,000 a year, 20 years ago. I sat there and kept quiet because my family only had $30,000 a year. I was only there because of scholarships and financial aid. The worst thing is all of the sympathy this kid got from the other people in the class. The school was so proud of their racial diversity, but 95% of the students came from families in the top 1% of income. Girl I went to high school with got a Mercedes for her 16th birthday. Bitched and moaned about the fact that she didn't get a Lexus because her name was Lexi, and she thought it would be so cool for Lexi to drive a Lexus with a custom license plate saying Lexi. Her parents did cave and buy her a Lexus for her 17th birthday. My college roommate threw a massive tantrum, like on the floor screaming and crying, because her parents got her a used big-ass truck for graduation. It was a 2013 truck with less than 10,000 miles that was fully upgraded with every possible add-on. We graduated in 2014. The car was maybe a year old. She already had a 2009 Range Rover. Not exactly rich kid syndrome, but there was this family that had 2 children who attended the elementary school that was connected to my middle school. Every day, the 2 parents would leave the house and drive separately to pick up their 2 kids before returning home. I should mention at this point that they each drove a Lamborghini, one black and one orange, back to back in the pickup line to get their kids from elementary school. At first, I thought they were just being showy, but then I realized that they were 2-seaters, so this was really the only way to do it. Dad bought his college-age daughter a house in a very nice neighborhood so that she and her friends could live rent-free while they attended university. He remodeled the entire house. In all, he probably spent close to $2 million. 2 weeks after moving in, they left a candle burning while they went to the store to get snacks for a football game. Came home and the house was on fire. A month later, it was good and new for them to move back in. Funny short story. My ex-wife used to drive a 1998 Honda Accord. She treated it like shit, and so one day I got into it to drive somewhere, and I noticed that it was falling apart. I had 2 options, junkyard or sell it, and so I put it on Craigslist for $250. I thought it could go to a low-income family that had someone with some know-how who could semi-restore it, but when I meet the buyer, he was not who I expected. He pulled up in a brand new Escalade and told me that his son was spoiled. His son had crashed a BMW, Mercedes, and an Audi, and so he was done buying him nice cars. Turns out, this guy purchased my car as a way of torturing his son.